although the concrete on-the-ground situations differ. I wanted to start first by thanking Glenn Ford for being here. Glenn Ford was recently in Seattle to speak at our 15 Now National Conference, and we really appreciated his voice there to very openly call out the Democratic Party establishment in their Me Too tactics that they're trying to use. I also wanted to apologize if some of you noticed me doing stuff on my phone. I didn't mean to be distracted, but I mentioned that not only to apologize, but also to say that what's happening in Seattle is still under flux. And I think that while I cannot go into the details of the 15 Now campaign, which we will be covering in another panel, which I hope you all will be able to attend later today, it reflects how much we're still having to fight. And it's interesting that this battle, at least in Seattle, is not over yet, even though, as some of you may know, but I wanted to make this announcement, this is absolutely the most historic and groundbreaking event that has happened in recent decades. On Thursday this week, the Seattle City Council's Select Committee on Minimum Wage and Income Inequality voted unanimously to increase the minimum wage of Seattle to $15 an hour. And I think a lot of the lessons from how we won this demand are very much linked to the questions of electoralism and whether or not revolutionaries should engage in electoral politics. Because the 15 Now campaign, grassroots campaign, and the movement for $15 an hour was something that developed in the wake of our historic success last year, winning a seat for a socialist in the city council. And I think that there is nothing better than using a live demonstration of a concrete victory that came from the basis of an electoral position for us to learn that the questions of electoralism versus revolution cannot be posed in a simplistic manner. They have to be discussed in a much more substantial way. And the question is not, at least to us in Socialist Alternative, the question is not, and clearly for Dalinka, the question is not whether or not to run electoral campaigns. The question is, how can we run electoral campaigns and use the electoral platform to push forward radical movements that will not only demand and win radical reforms under capitalism, but very clearly and unambiguously raise the question of a system change, and not just system change in the abstract. I will say, as a socialist, we need an alternative. Young people are going to be turning to us and asking, yes, I agree with you, capitalism has completely failed us, but what do we go to? It is not enough just to protest and just be disenchanted with capitalism. We have to have a concrete alternative. And those of us who are clear about socialism have to boldly advocate for that through our electoral campaigns and through whatever movements we are part of. And if people are not clear about it, we should be willing to engage in honest but open debate to convince people that this is the way forward. And hopefully we'll have a chance to draw that out a little bit. I also think that it's really great that Bernd went first to talk about the struggles in Europe. And again, those are bound up with what the left should do in Europe in terms of electoral politics. And I won't be able to go into too much detail about it, but hopefully we will be able to link what's happening in Europe to what's happening in the US as well. And I think Bernd said that well. The question of electoralism is really a question of whether or not electoral campaigns and electoral politics serve as tools to build more substantive movements that can incorporate the agenda of social change, or is the building of social movements somehow hampered by participating in electoral campaigns? That's the question a lot of people are grappling with. And just to set the stage, let's admit that the disgust, and I'm now going to focus on the U.S., the disgust and the frustration and the complete disengagement in some cases of American people, especially younger people, with electoral politics is completely justified. We have to start at that point. We have to agree with them, because that is our starting point, to say that no, both the parties, the two big business parties, are failing us, and it is a completely failed strategy to continue putting our faith in the Democrats. And